It was nice. Okay, there we are. I'm on. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for braving the ice and weather, even though the shine is out, but it's a little bit deceiving for the cold of today. Thank you for being here in our sanctuary. I'm Reverend Susan Frawley. It is my honor and privilege to be in the pulpit this morning. And as we move into our worship space, let's begin with a land and social justice acknowledgement. The land that our church sits upon was stewarded by the Haudenosaunee people. It is a sacred rite of passage to hold this place as a holy and sacred land. And so we take that responsibility, we acknowledge the early stewards, and we ourselves bless this space with our honoring of legacy. The Unitarian Universalists are a social justice loving people. It is part of our covenant and part of our principles that we side in love with those whose voices are marginalized in society. We use our vote, we use our presence, and we use our voice in every area that we can to make sure that those who would be oppressed by power, persecuted, or discriminated against are given light, are given hope, and are given our support and alliance. And so as we are here today, let's just take a moment to take in our beautiful sanctuary. I want to call you to be present. Observe the beautiful light coming through our windows and how it enhances the inside of our sanctuary area. Take a moment to just breathe in. Actually, there's warm air. I'm thankful for that, always. It means the furnace is working well. And just take a moment to settle yourself so that you can be present today as we come together for worship. And also, make sure you set your phones to worship mode. So I have two opening words for us this morning. The first is from a sports reporter whose name is Kingman Brewster Jr. And he said, "We all live in a televised goldfish bowl." Will McDonough, also a sportscaster, said this about Pete Rozelle. Pete Rozelle used television to get the game to the American public by creating the Super Bowl and making it the biggest sporting event in the world. And so we're going to light our chalice, and at the same time, I'm actually going to light our candles too. Let me just take a moment to do that. And if we can all read together our chalice writing words, which are in our order of service. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers, not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. And I invite you to find in our gray hymnals, hymn number 16, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple." Patty's going to play it through. Patty, how many times should we sing it through today? One time or two times? We'll sing it through 2 times.
And it might be a bit slower on my stiff hands.
Okay. It's a gift to be simple, it's a gift to be free, it's a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in a place just right, to be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed to turn and turn will be our delight, till turning, we come round right. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed to turn will be our delight. Turning, come round right. Please be seated. It is part of our legacy. It is part of our covenant of community and caring that we take time to share our joys and our sorrows and our concerns with each other in a soundbite sort of method. So I'm going to light our base candle. And I will also put this candle, and I'm putting this in honor of my Aunt Esther, who passed away last week. Oh. And I invite you all to come forward, share your joys, your sorrows, and concerns, and to light a candle, or if you're remembering someone who has passed, you may put a stone into our vase. There you go.
Last night, I saw something terrible on TV. I think it's by 11 o'clock about the war in Ukraine. Now, in war, it is the common people that do 99% of the suffering. And the leaders who start the war, they're in a relatively safe position. And, you know, they spoke about the resistance in Ukraine, and the people in the resistance do terrible things to other human beings. And it brought in mind something I heard years and years ago. I think it was a United States soldier that shot and killed a Japanese soldier. And when the American soldier went through the pockets of the Japanese soldier, he found a picture of the Japanese family, his family. And it's sort of ironic that we're all almost practically the same. They say that the DNA in human beings in the different races is almost identical, very few changes in the DNA. And yet we treat each other so terribly.
So I had a similar experience. I was listening to the BBC yesterday morning, and one of the things they were talking about was how thousands and thousands of Ukrainian children have been kidnapped by Russian forces and taken to re-education camps in Russia, where they're not allowed to speak their language or have anything to do with their culture. And the whole BBC morning show was about how during war, one of the things that people tend to do besides doing horrible physical things to people is to try and take away people's culture. And it reminded me of a story my grandfather told me. He left Poland shortly after World War I and came to the United States. And one of the stories he told was that the Germans had taken over his little town where he lived, and they were not allowed to speak Polish at their schools. They had to speak German. And they had a teacher who, after hours, would give them lessons in Polish. And several weeks after this teacher started doing this, the kids were all called into the school, and they had to watch their teacher be shot by the Germans and killed. And they were told it was because he was speaking the Polish language. They weren't allowed to use that language anymore. And then another story from my dad, who actually fought in World War II. I asked him once if he ever shot at anybody or tried to kill anybody. And he said yes. And I kind of said, how could you do that? And he said, when somebody's shooting at you, it's very easy to turn around and shoot at them. You're trying to save your own life. So I don't know how we fix this.
I can relate to that. I never did learn to speak my own language either.
Oh, there we go. Is that better? Am I on now?
Yes,
I
yes.
shut off when it was falling out. Okay. For all that has been spoken, for all that is held in the heart and the mind, and let us also hold those who are victimized in these war places throughout our world, both past tragedies, occurring now to all of it. Our best energy and our blessing. Amen and a women. So for our spiritual practice moment this morning, which for February, the UUA focuses on love. And there was a story that I thought was about love, and I'm going to share a little bit with you, and then I'm going to do a little exercise with you that goes along with it. So in 1990, the Empty Bowl Project was conceptualized by John Harton. He was an art teacher from Michigan, and he did this as a way for his students to creatively support a food drive. He had his class made ceramic bowls and invited the community to come and have a simple dinner, bread and soup. And anything that was donated was then used to help to feed the hungry in their community. People who came to this were given their bowl to take home with them to remind them always of the hunger that exists in community. And what is the empty bowl? Well, it is a simple symbol of the countless ways in which there is potential, there is despair, there is sorrow, and there is a promise. The empty bowl is a vessel, and within that vessel, there are many ways to see and seek. So towards that, thinking about that empty bowl, I wanted to invite you to participate in something called the Empty Bowl Meditation. And it requires nothing more than just you sitting comfortably in your seat and following some simple directions about breathing and being comfortable. And if you don't want to participate, that's fine. You can simply sit and observe or just be present. But the empty bowl meditation, again, first requires you just to be in a comfortable, safe setting. You have to close your eyes. And one thing it does have is that you take your tongue and put it on the back side of your teeth or on the roof of your mouth. And as you're breathing, keep your tongue there, if it's comfortable for you. And if not, just breathe in a way that is comfortable. But in doing that, it creates a grounding. And so if you are comfortable, or if you are in a space, if you are grounded in your own way, let's begin by just breathing, drawing air into your lungs through your nose and holding it until it feels uncomfortable, and exhaling back out through your mouth. While you are doing this breathing, simply be aware of your body's cycle of taking in air and then expelling. If you desire, focus on the tip of your nose, that entry point area by where your breaths are coming into your body. And then, of course, as they are then leaving later by your mouth. Breath is an object of awareness. It creates movement in so many ways. Let's take 30 seconds just to individually allow that cycle of air and awareness, grounding, to take place inside your own body. The movement of breath is time. The bringing in of the breath into your body in the various stop points along the way is an existence in the present. When you are focused and aware of this movement and cycle, you can surround yourself with peace and love. You are the empty bowl, the empty vessel. And as you are an empty vessel, your divine lips can touch this cycle of love and support through breath and expelling of that which you no longer need. Love and spirit seek you and pour benediction into you. Your lungs breathe and they become full inside that vessel that is you. This is a meditation that you can do on your own. Some say just take 15 minutes a day. And in practicing this, you naturally will fall into a cycle of awareness. You will become more aware and focused on your inner strengths, needs. It also allows you to be aware of the power that you have within yourself to fill your vessel, whether it be through energy, whether it be through love, whether it be through food, or whether it simply be that breath of spirit and life that you bring into your body. You are in control, and you can make beautiful things happen inside your vessel. And now we're going to take up our offertory, which goes to support the very good works of this church. Spirit of love, to be, sing it by heart, all in the wind, rise in the sea, in the hand giving light, shape of justice, who told me close, wings set me free, spirit of life, come to me, come to me. So a few weeks ago, living here in the United States, it was pretty hard to miss the Super Bowl. It consumed everything, not just from the game itself, but from conversations casually with people in stores, to TV ads, to home parties, to food, you name it, it was part of it. But what is it that made that bowl so super? Originally in the early 60s, when the established NFL made what was then the most recent NFL, the league's owners chose the name AFL-NFL Championship Game. But in July 1966, the Kansas City Star quoted Mr. Hunt, who at that time was one of the owners, and he said, "This is a Super Bowl game." And that was his term for the championship. And the media immediately jumped on this term and used it everywhere. However, do you know why today media and other venues are not allowed to use that term? That is because the NFL League trademarked the phrase Super Bowl back in 1969. The NFL considers any commercial activity that uses the term Super Bowl to be in violation. Estimate how seriously they take this. It's all about money, as most capitalistic ventures are. Although the term bowl used for games has been around for a long time, especially there was the Rose Bowl, the Sun Bowl. We even now have the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Yes, that's right. If you pay, you can play. And then there's the Puppy Bowl that Animal Planet uses as its answer to football, the Kitty Halftime Show. But again, what makes the bowl super? Nothing. There is nothing to make it stand out any more than any other real bowl of use. Bowls, glass bowls, metal bowls, stoneware bowls, earthen bowls, bamboo bowls, bone china bowls, even something called chawan. Chawan is a tea bowl from China that is especially used for drinking of tea. Or a Bohemian bowl, which is an upcycled coconut shell made 100% natural coconut shell and food put inside. By any other term is simply, usually, a typically round dish or container used for the preparing, the serving, or the consuming of food. But let's not forget, there are also spiritual bowls. There is the Tibetan singing bowl, which is a type of bowl that vibrates and produces a rich, deep tone when it is played. And the word bowl has lots of other aspects in life. I, being a child of the 60s, very much remember the bowl cut. Maybe some of you might as well. And this was simply where your mom or dad put a bowl on your head and just trimmed. It obviously did not grow in popularity over the years. There's also the Dust Bowl. This refers to the 1900s and the Great Plains region that was overused, undernourished, where the overproduction of wheat, along with other natural components, created a horrible, unfertile dry land that when the winds whipped upon it, thus it became known as the Dust Bowl because of what the storms produced. Now there's the empty bowls too, which we just heard about, and it definitely has something in spiritual practice. There are many places that have done similar types of things where you pay and you either get a full bowl, an empty bowl, a middle bowl, or no bowl, or in a similar way to what Mr. Harton did, a bowl that then you may keep and use to always remind you about hunger. There we go. Sorry, I lost track of my pages. One second, technical difficulty. With the empty bowl, the organizers eventually created it into a 501c3 organization that was used again to promote hunger issues. But bowls, chalices, dishes, and jars are also at their origin vessels. And this is a most rich and deep in meaning word. It includes bowls, as we've talked about, but it also includes other ways in which one can carry items, substance, or even a thought. So what is a bowl all about if we talk just about that? Well, a bowl can also represent your life purpose. It can represent what you are striving for. And the depth of a bowl can have lots of meanings as well. A deep bowl will have great things to offer, but it can also hold sadness, disappointment, and fear. A bowl, again, by definition, is usually a round vessel with a flat bottom and sides that curve up. Although bowls also have many other uses, eating, drinking, and holding items. And again, they are made from different materials, and those materials often hearken to what that bowl can be used for. A bowl is very often a symbol of the feminine. It represents the womb, which is also known as the vessel of life. The bowl has been used in religious ceremonies for thousands of years, and it's not hard to see why. It is representative of fertility and new life. It is also a symbol of abundance because it can hold so much. And when you think about it this way, it's easy to see how everything we need, food, water, shelter, comes from earth, and that earth itself is so abundant in resources that we can access that as long as we hold that vessel in good regard. Now, the bowl represents all these things, again, also because it's shaped like a crescent moon, again, which is associated with the feminine. And it also is connected to your crown chakra. True. So a bowl is something that represents life, it represents a centering, and it can represent what you most wish for and aspire. And our own UU chalice is a bowl, a vessel, if you will. From the flaming chalice, which was written at Harvard University, the following was said. Chalice officially became a Unitarian symbol during World War II. Been a symbol of religion and political resistance, oppression throughout Europe. During the Middle Ages, when allowed to drink from the communion, a priest from Prague named John Hus defied the Catholic Church by serving his congregation both the bread and the wine, effectively, as Unitarian Universalists do today, that all people have equal access to the divine. After his death, Hus's followers continued to share the full communion with one another in secret and took up a flaming chalice as their symbol. During World War II, the Reverend Charles Joy, who was director of the Unitarian Service Committee, asked his friend Han Deutsch to create a symbol that would represent the spirit of that work, of their work. At that time, the Unitarian Service Committee, a rescue and relief operation, was helping Unitarians, Jews, and other persecuted groups escape the Nazis. Since Nazi informer knew, Reverend Joy felt that refugees needed a simple hope to assure them good hands as they traveled in a network that was much like the Underground Railroad. Began using the symbol in French refugee camps, and it was understood that anyone carrying a note with a flaming chalice could be trusted. Sympathizers would draw the symbol in the dirt outside their home as a symbol to those in need of a place to stay, a light in the darkness. The Universalist Service Committee was established, and that, along with the Service Committee, began working together on their joint Unitarian Universalist relief programs. After the war, the flaming, ensconced in a circle, became the emblem of Unitarianism. At that time, the traditional unit was similar, but it had a cross within the circle. And when denominations merged in 1961, they symbolized their union by combining the symbols of their faith, the flaming chalice, standing tall within both circles. The official symbol of the Unitarian Universalist Association was designed to be a visual representation of a modern and dynamic faith, and it was intentionally for interpretation. It can be seen as a communion cup, symbol of religious freedom, or a lightness. For Reverend Joy, it was a symbol of helpfulness and sacrifice. So, while the NFL and other spaces have their bowls, we as UUs have our bowl. In fact, we ourselves are that bowl. Many times during COVID, when we did Zoom services and people did not have chalices in their home, they were often invited to cup their hands and hold their own spirit, hold their own vessel as that same space. So it's important to know that we are the vessel, we are the chalice, and our own self within that holds our faith, our community, and our. May we be bowls of super. And so with that, we come to my favorite part, which is talk back. Talk back is an opportunity for you to speak your mind, your thoughts, your reflections, or even your challenges. Because this is your pulpit, which I am a guest. And it is the voice of the congregation that is most important as we come together. So feel free to talk back on our topic or anything else that came to your mind while we've been doing our service this morning.
Oh, is it working? Okay, the symbol of the bowl, what war was that, or where did that take place again? Okay. 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 And the second one, a friend of mine joined me briefly last week and asked about some of these symbols on the wall. I don't know all of them. Do you happen to know the more obscure ones, like the flower and
Mike, I don't, is that Islam? No.
that's I think
can't
that's
see.
Buddhism or Hinduism right there.
Oh, there's the Muslim one. Yeah,
And what is this? Is this Quakerism? What is this flower thing?
that's Buddhist. Buddhist.
The flower's Buddhist and that's Hindu. And that's just a cross. And what is that? What is that thing up there? That green thing with the white circle. And are those two circles? Is that Unitarian as well? Yeah. Okay, so those are both Unitarian. I'm good on this one. Okay.
There's a program years ago where and so a lot of new churches put these in and inclusive.
Yeah.
So most people who come to the group.
Oh yeah. I can hear you just fine.
Okay, there we go. Am I on? There I
Well,
am.
thank you. So just that one up there, I gotta figure out.
That's a good question. I'm
Okay.
gonna try and look that up.
That one.
Behind?
That one's Baha'i.
Okay.
See, I learned something too. I didn't know that.
Okay.
Nice,
Anyone else?
good. Other talk back?
Well, I remember the bowl cut.
Patty says she remembers the bowl cuts. Oh, right behind you, Paul.
Okay. I think I've seen, I cannot remember what church it was. I drove by, I think it was North Tonawanda. Interesting. Might have been Bethesda Church. I think they use, I heard they use the flaming chalice to represent, they believe in the Trinity. So I think they use the dove for the Holy Spirit, the cross for Jesus. And I heard they use the flaming chalice to represent the Father.
Totally
That's what
possible.
I saw.
Yeah, no, it is. There's lots of
long
different
time.
faiths that absolutely use either the flaming component, like so you'll see the flame, or you might see three flames
Yes.
to represent the Trinity, but also within a chalice or a vessel.
Okay.
Or some of the symbols. Yep,
Yeah.
lots of different. There's a Chinese Christian church that's in where my kids and I live, and I've seen different symbols that have been used there as well too. And I don't know what they all mean, but
Oh, I thought it was interesting.
yeah,
Mm,
it is, especially when you start looking at like, and then getting into the history of why too. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that'll be a sermon. Maybe we'll talk about all of our banners and symbols of faith and how they came to be
Yeah.
and why different. There you go. Okay,
I would enjoy
I
it.
already
I would,
put out March, but I think April might work well for that. How's that?
Okay.
sounds
I'll
great.
let Erica know. That's why I love
I'd
this.
be
I always
able
get ideas for sermons and other things. That would be a good one. Yeah, because most places have these symbols in their churches.
And we could serve our favorite dish, a bowl of ice cream.
There you go.
Well, if we're talking about random thoughts, I was having random thoughts today. I had three of them, but I don't I'm old, so I might not be able to remember what they were. But the first one was this talking about how someone takes over your country and they eliminate your culture and your language. We lived in Taiwan at one time, and which is China was taken over by the Chinese after being taken over by the Japanese. And we had everybody who lived there, and Americans had a maid who lived with you because you you couldn't speak the language to start with. So you had a maid who lived in your home. And our maid told us that when she was little, she was 6 years old and was going to school, and the Japanese took over, and they immediately took their language away. And everything was spoken in Japanese and taught in Japanese. And she said, I was 6 years old and I left school because I couldn't understand. And then as we were living there, TV was in Taiwanese. Taiwanese and Chinese is written the same, but sounds very different. One can't understand the other. And while we were living there, one day she was all upset because the Chinese had taken away all the Taiwanese language from TV. So her favorite soap operas, she could no longer understand them. And she was just devastated. This had happened to her twice.
Yeah.
That her culture had been removed. It's a very sad thing. Another thing I was thinking of is our chalice. Someone told me one day that we're not Christian. And I said, well, our religion is based on a traditional Christian background, but we do things differently. And I said to her, if you look at our chalice, it's shaped like a cross. I don't know if anybody ever notices that, but I notice it all the time. So there are different interesting things about our symbols. And then the other thing I was just going to mention to you is that you talked about this, the roof of the mouth thing.
Yes.
Well, I take Tai Chi. And the first thing we do in Tai Chi class is we spend maybe 10 minutes just visualizing the circuits, different circuits in our bodies. And this main one it comes up to the back of your spine, it goes through your head. The roof of the mouth is a very important point in that circuit. And I thought that was interesting that you talked about that today. Anyway, those are my rambling.
Oh, no, those are all good ones. And thank you. I mean, in the course of the small time we had, but yes, absolutely. That grounding component and giving it more intention can do so much more for your body. Other comments? Talk back.
We have Francie out in LA who wanted to make a comment. I think she got her mic turned on, so take it away.
Okay, hi. I'm from Huntington Beach, which is in Orange County, but near LA. Anyways, going back to the discussion about prohibiting language, it reminded me with my grandmother, who was born in Poland, used to always say to me, don't forget the language, don't forget the language. And I never understood that. I have a different meaning of it right now, actually, from what I'm hearing. She never really explained it. I kind of intuited that what she was trying to say is don't forget your culture, though. That's it.
Oh, thank you. And thanks for joining us from California.
Thank you.
Any other comments, reflections? And you never have to apologize for letting your mind go. That's normal. I remember Dan Budd, when he was the minister down in Buffalo, he used to say, there's an old joke about how a minister creates their sermon. You start at point A, you go to point B, then you kind of drift off over to point F. Maybe it goes to Z. Hopefully it comes back to D. And for some people listening, it's like, where are we? Oh, I'm going shopping at Wegmans later. Let me jot some things down. Okay, but I'm back there at the end. So it's all good. I get it. I understand it, because that's part of just, you're in your space of being present, and that's totally fine. All good. Yes, Paul.
Goes back when I was a kid. I don't know why it reminded me, never forget the pastor's name at the Christian Missionary Alliance Church back then. It was Pastor Payne. He was our pastor for a long time. And he would preach, and it'd be like almost monotone. My dad and several people would start falling asleep.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden he would say something. He'd dump the Bible, whatever it was, And he'd yell right out. And the whole church would wake up, would jump.
There you go. I'll have to try that sometime. Wake up. Well, I want to thank all of you for sharing. In addition to sharing with each other your thoughts and giving your voice and being present, you also minister to me. And for that, I am very grateful. So thank you so much. There. So let's find in our hymn books, hymn 308, The Blessing of the Earth and Sky. Patty's going to play it through, and I'll invite you to rise in body or spirit as you be willing or able, and to share in singing. The blessings of they worship the earth in nature's wonder, seek out. Here we restore dreams. Build children. Please be seated. It is that time for announcements. So if anyone has any announcements for the good of the congregation or community, please share. Coffee's on. There you go. Anything else happening in community or anything that anyone wants to be sharing?
Okay. We have an annual meeting coming up. Is it April? We're looking it up here. Okay, one moment, please.
Recalculating.
Yes.
Turn right.
That's right.
I should have left my phone on.
Well, it's not this month.
It's not this month.
It's-
I don't think it's next month. Of May? Oh, okay. I believe it's the 21st of May. Okay. And the stewardship, they're doing the thing on the 7th of May.
So make sure you're here for all of that.
Yeah. And make sure you're here for all of that.
Good job, Paul.
We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun for the stewardship meeting on the 7th, you said. So if everybody can be here, because we're gonna have some silliness and fun. And
Are we doing the helium?
You're not supposed to tell people, Ted.
Secrets are being revealed. Uh-oh. It'll be fun. Any other announcements? For our benediction this evening, that was a long day, this morning. I first want to share with you something about culture. Kintsugi. Did I say that right, Max? Kintsugi, the Japanese art of golden repair. It's like, how would I know? Well, because you study things. So I'm going to go with that. Kintsugi, which is the golden joinery, also known as kintsukori, golden repair. It is the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery by mending the areas of breakage. Kintsugi means to join with gold and is a reminder to stay optimistic when things fall apart and to celebrate the flaws and missteps of life. This ancient Japanese philosophy helps us to accept our flaws. In just one piece of pottery, Kintsugi can teach us about accepting fragility, building strength and resilience, and taking pride in the imperfect. Things can and do fall apart. Of course, we know that uninvited challenges and mistakes are usually how we grow and learn and change. But that truth still doesn't make them easier. And so in benediction, may your vessel's cracks be mended with the golden salve of love. Are you doing postlude? Okay. Max is, oh, sorry, I forgot to extinguish the chalice. You get ready and I'm going to do this. If you would join me in reciting our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
That was lovely, Matt. And I especially, I liked that cellular counterpoint. You didn't hear that? Oh, oh, I thought I heard a phone go off. Cellular counterpoint. Oops.